Hello, my name is Brian Heimel. I'm the founder of ForSaleByInvestorTools.com. We have two very special guests joining us today. We have David Kotok, who is the Chief Investment Officer for Cumberland Advisors. Mr. Kotok co-founded Cumberland in 1973. His articles in financial market commentary have appeared in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, and other publications. He's also a frequent contributor to CNBC programs. With us, we also have William Dunkelberg, PhD, professor in economics at Temple University, Fox School of Business and Management. Since 1971, he has served as the chief economist for the National Federation of Independent Businesses, NFIB, which represents about 600,000 member firms. Mr. Kotok, Mr. Dunkelberg, thank you very much for joining us today. My first question is in regards to the residential real estate market. Over the last 3 years, it's been a little crazy to say the least. What do you see for the market, or what are you seeing going on in the market right now? And what do you think the market's going to be doing over the next 5 years regarding the residential defaults?
There are a number of reasons why this happened, but you could, if you look at housing starts over the past couple of years, what you'll observe is that while we only need about 1.5 million new housing starts a year to accommodate new household formations and growth in the economy, we were building as many as 2.2 million units in 2006. So from 2003 to 2006 or 7, we built millions of houses and apartment buildings and condos that there's no one in America to live in. When we finally discovered that, of course, housing starts plummeted from this 2.2 million rate all the way down to about 600,000 a year. And that, of course, meant the demise of the construction industry. Lots of jobs were lost. It was part of the big decline that the economy experienced. And what this means is that we have too many houses. House prices had to fall from the speculative levels that we saw and continue to fall. We think that today about 10 to 15% of all the houses and apartments in the U.S. are vacant. That is, there's nobody to live in. And of course that means that the value of these units is falling or has been falling. Looks like it might have stabilized finally now. So prices are down and that's certainly giving us lots of trouble with foreclosures. People can't make the payments on houses that they purchased at those record high prices we saw in 06 and 07. That really set the stage for the foreclosure mess that we have today.
Let me add an element to what Bill said. What we did when we built too many houses is finance them, and finance them poorly. And the traditional old style finance of a house was somebody bought a house, they had to put 20% down, they went down the street to the savings and loan or institution that knew them and they knew, and they borrowed up to 80%, and they had the classic old homeowner's home mortgage. All that went away. First of all, they had to put less down. In some cases, it reached a point in which they didn't have to put anything down. Secondly, the mortgages were packaged by financial institutions. The financial institutions then diced them and sliced them into various pieces and sold them as investments to various holders around the world. So you separated two things. You separated the local resident owner of a house from the lender and severed the tie that would strengthen that combination. And then you imposed or you invited speculative leverage so that instead of viewing the house as your castle, as your primary investment, we started to dilute the nature of the financing side. And when we did that, we created a mess. The mess is measured in the trillions. We've had several $1 trillion worth of mortgage-backed securities, which were originally issued and sold all over the world and rated AAA by rating agencies. That whole thing has collapsed. We've said to foreigners, if you bought our paper and we told you it was good, it isn't good anymore. You may not get paid, you may not get full recovery. And we are now unwinding a monumental financial catastrophe. And that's catastrophe in finance, in residential mortgage finance, applies to the largest single asset class in the United States. the most pervasive. When you sum up the housing values of the national housing stock 3 years ago, we estimated it, or the Federal Reserve estimated it, at about 24 trillion. Now it's closer to 18 trillion. And those are the same housing units that are there, and the same people. So when you take an asset class that is that large, twice the size of the stock market, and you cut out a fourth of the value, and you do it throughout the United States, in every neighborhood, in every section, in every county, in every city, in every state, you impose a large financial and psychological shock on the country. And that's where we find ourselves today. And it isn't over. The foreclosure rate indicates we still have more to work out. It's not over. It's going to take a long time to work out through this process.
Excellent. Do you see more and more residential foreclosures coming online? And with that, how long do you think it will take to cycle out of the existing foreclosures that have came online and the new defaults that are occurring?
Well, let me make a quick comment on that. First, we do not know, sitting here today, when the final inflection point in foreclosures will occur, because we're sitting talking to you at the moment when the most recent statistic is the worst statistic we've had. I think something like 1 out of every 138 houses is in foreclosure in the entire country. That's an enormous statistic, huge. So do we know what that's going to be next month? I don't think any of us have a way to know. Do we have sections of the country that may be stabilizing? As Bill said, there's evidence of that. And there's evidence of other sections of the country which still have falling prices. So I don't think we know enough to be able to forecast when we get through this and how we get through it. What we do know is we have a major overhang negative force which is huge in our economy. We haven't been in anything like this in a very long time, and it is a work in process, and time is the most important element in healing it.
You know, that's right. So if we look at just recent foreclosure activity, it looks like over the next year to 2 years, 12 to 24 months, there will be 2 million houses that come onto the market available because of foreclosures. People are moving out of them. And it's interesting to note that actually a lot of the foreclosures don't even put somebody on the street because they've never been occupied. There are houses in the market like in Florida that were built. Nobody ever moved into them, nobody ever bought them, so the bank now owns them, and those are foreclosures as well. And all those are on the market. So supply on the market is very large, especially in some parts of the U.S., and that of course creates downward pressure on prices. Now, even though it looks like, for the most part, house prices have stopped falling, they still are very low compared to a year ago. So you see numbers that say house prices are down 12% from a year ago. Well, of course, a year ago prices were way too high. But even if prices now kind of stabilize, there are people who got put into these houses with, fraudulent mortgages, no good background checks, etc. And that means the foreclosure process is going to continue for these people.
Thank you for joining us today. Please visit FSBTools.com for weekly updates on all things real estate.